Hi. Welcome to my March wrap-up. So today I'm going to be going through all of the books that I read in the month of March. I read 6 books total, which is an okay reading month for me. I'm used to reading like closer to 10 books a month. I will say that this month was a pretty hectic one for me, so I'm proud of myself for how many books I did read. It doesn't matter how many books you read in a month. You can read 1 and that's wonderful. You can read 15 and that's wonderful. However many books you want to read and that you enjoy, that's perfect for you. If you see me looking over to the side, I have all of my notes for all the books that I read. I don't know about y'all, but pretty much as soon as I finish reading a book, I like completely forget it, so I need my notes. If you see me look over there, that's what I'm looking at. This up here, it has trouble sometimes. Now, let's get into the books. The first book I read this month was A Taste of Poison by Tosonia Odette. This is in the Entangled with Fae series. It's a cozy fantasy series that's Disney retellings, and it's super cute, super cozy, super fun. This one is Snow White. The main character that we follow in this book is Astrid Snow, and she is being hunted over the death of her father. Her stepmother thinks that Astrid was behind the death of her father, and we're just following her through the journey of proving her innocence in that case. From what I remember, the banter was very, very good between her and the huntsman. It is a dual POV, which I really enjoyed, and there were some interesting plot twists in here for a retelling. I gave this book 3 stars. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I would recommend it. It's a fun little cozy read on like a rainy day and you just want something that is easy to read and absorb and not a ton of brain power. If you like Disney but you want Fae version, check out this series. It's pretty good. The next book that I read this month was A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This book was all over my book talk for you page. That was one of the reasons why I got this book. The other reason, look at the sprayed edges. Just really take them in. They're so pretty. This entire book is just so pretty. And now we get to what's inside the book. I'm just gonna start off by saying that I gave this book 2.5 stars. It was a very interesting premise. It revolves around Scandinavian and Nordic mythology, like Loki and Thor and Odin. I've never read a fantasy that's in that sort of environment, so that was really cool to read about. But in this book, we're following Freya, and at the beginning of the book, she is in this horrible marriage. She is not happy with her life. She wants to become something more, and things start happening, and she's put in the position where that can happen for her. I really enjoyed the first like 30% of the book. It had good pacing. The banter between Freya and the main, I use the term love interest very, very loosely when I talk about this book, but the main love interest, their banter at the beginning, I loved it. I really liked the kind of banter that they were doing. This book is marketed as a romantasy, or at least that's what I've been seeing. I didn't see much romance and love. I just saw obsession and lust. It felt very weird to me. I felt uncomfortable reading a good portion of this book. I liked the first 30%, but then it got really jumbled and confusing for me after that. Then the very end just felt so rushed. I don't even know how to describe it. 2.5 stars. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. There's better things elsewhere. I just wish it was a little bit different. And I know that there's more books coming out in this series, and I might give it another chance and read the second book. I don't know. I don't know. And that's all I can say on this book. The third book that I read in the month of March is If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. So in this book, we're following Autumn and Finn, and they are childhood best friends. Their moms are best friends. They are next door neighbors, and we're following their friendship and how they grew apart in high school and how they start to reconnect. You find out something super tragic and sad at the beginning of this book, and then you flash back and see how Autumn and Finn's relationship changes over time. But you know what's coming and you want so badly for it not to happen, but then it does, and it just rips you to shreds. It's the plot twist that you see coming the entire time, but it still hits so hard, and I cried a lot. And the way that this book ends, it ended so abruptly on so many different cliffhangers that I really want to read the next book that just came out. I've heard mixed reviews and not the best reviews on that book, but I still want to read it, and I think that the best time to read it is pretty soon after this one. I feel like a lot of people had some high expectations going into the second book, and now that my expectations are a little bit lower, then I feel like it might be okay. I don't know. I gave this book a 4.25 stars. The only reason why it's not higher than like a 4.25, that it's not like 4.5, a 5-star, anything like that. I have a very difficult time with reading about high school. This is probably the most realistic depiction of high school that I've ever read. You know, I'm actually gonna up it. I'm gonna go 4.5 stars. Yeah, we're gonna go 4.5 stars. You deserved it. It's so good. It's so wholesome and wonderful. Highly recommend. The fourth book that I read this month was The Assassin's Blade. So I decided to start the Throne of Glass series, and I read Assassin's Blade first. I have a whole reading vlog, so go check that out if you haven't already. I really wanted to read the prequel before I got into the rest of the Throne of Glass series, and I was nervous that I was gonna hate reading this first because I heard people say that if they read this first, they wouldn't have continued with the series. I had the opposite effect. I was hooked from the beginning. All of the novellas were they were so fast paced and so easy to get into. I really, really loved reading this first. You just get Celaena's backstory and why she's considered the most feared and the best assassin. Something else that I kept hearing people say is that Celaena is just unbearable. She's so cocky. Yeah, she is, but I wasn't annoyed by it. I laughed at it. She had some wit and sass to her that I found incredibly entertaining, and I'm really excited to get into the rest of the series. As for my rating, my heart says 4.5, but probably in the grand scheme of the entire series, it might go down a little bit, but right now, standalone, 4.5. The next book that I read, I don't have a physical copy of it. I listened to the audiobook while I was at work, and that is Ward D by Freida McFadden. In that book, we are following a medical student, and her name is Amy. She is scheduled for a shift in Ward D, which is like the psych ward. It's hinted at very early on that she has this past and just this bad feeling with Ward D, and the entire book is just following and finding out all the reasons why and other things that happen in the present that is spooky and scary and all those things. So I gave it a 2-star. I found it pretty predictable for me, but also I think it's because I listened to it on audiobook and I wasn't physically reading it, because it's absorbing all the information, but I'm not focusing on reading and comprehending. That being said, I kind of guessed the entire plot. Like everything. I think that put the book automatically at a disadvantage. I think that if I read like a physical copy or on my Kindle or something, I would have been more shocked at some things, but this book just didn't surprise me. I like some of Freida McFadden's books better than Ward D. I love her writing. I love several of her books. This one just, it didn't do it for me. I don't like giving bad reviews. The last book that I read this month was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. So this book is a romance book, and we're following Alexis and Daniel. Alexis is a doctor from a super famous, well-renowned family in the medical field. She has a lot of pressure on her. She just got out of a horrible relationship. She's trying to figure out what she needs to do with her life that makes her happy. I love saving people's lives. That brings me so much joy. But why am I so sad with my life? And then there's Daniel. He is a carpenter and he also manages a bed and breakfast. Whenever I was reading this book, all that I was imagining with the small town that Daniel lives in is Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls. And Daniel is so Luke Danes coded, it's not even funny. He's like a golden retriever version of Luke Danes, if you can imagine that. With Daniel, he also comes from a family that's really well renowned and respected within the town. From what I gather, Daniel's family is like the heart and soul of that entire town. Everyone knows him, everyone loves him, and his entire family. It's so wholesome and I love it, and it was so good. Both Alexis and Daniel have these high expectations that they need to live up to within their communities, within their families. One thing too, it's an age gap. Alexis is 10 years older than Daniel, and it's a very interesting dynamic in how that all works out. In this book, they're both just trying to figure out their life and what they want to do and trying to navigate what sort of relationship they would want to have, because they do come from different worlds. That's why this book is called Part of Your World. But no, I love this book. Also, Daniel, he has a goat. He has a goat that wears pajamas. So that's just like a very important point that you needed to know. Something else too, Bree, Alexis's best friend, and Doug, Daniel's best friend, they stole the show for me. I love them so much. I know that Bree has a book, but I don't know if Abby Jimenez is planning on writing Doug's POV, but I really want to see that. There's so many things that you could go into depth with both of them, actually all of the characters. There's a lot of serious issues that it hints at in here that can definitely be explored more in other books, and I really hope that she's planning on doing that. Excuse me, sir. Don't put your butt on my books, thank you. But all of that being said, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was so cute. It was such an easy read. I think I got through it in two and a half days. So as far as rating goes, I gave it a 4 stars. I know I'm raving about it and I gave it a 4 stars. 4 stars is still a really great rating for me. The thing is, I really can't stand when there is miscommunication in a book, and this book had a good amount of it. It recovered well. If it didn't, then it wouldn't be a 4 stars. Still, the annoyance I felt during the parts of miscommunication, yeah, 4 stars. Still really loved it. That's just a pet peeve of mine. But other than that, I really enjoyed this book, and I highly recommend it for anyone at all. That's it for all the books that I read in March. I would say that it was a pretty good reading month overall. I'm really excited for April. Let me know down in the comments below what other kind of videos you want to see. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!